team I want to talk about immediately, because obviously they were in the headlines, is XL Wicked. So this is the team that, obviously, they didn't have a very good start to the split. They've lost the last 3 games in a row. Basically, people were already pretty critical. Funnily enough, the one storyline that everyone was super critical of coming into the split was the one that actually we talked about with Amazing on the last one, which is that Nukeduck's basically been actually like a fucking revelation. Like, he looks like he's gone back in time like 3 or 4 years or something. It's mega. But the sad part is, Wicked, it seems like he's the only good part of the fucking team at the moment, and now they've had to do these roster moves. So what do you think? Because obviously these roster moves they're making, not super well-known players, not big names, etc. So what are your thoughts on XL at the moment, mate?
Okay, so my thoughts are pretty split all around. So with the Nukeduck thing, this week the teams actually just shut him down instantly. They ganked him a lot and so on, and he couldn't do anything. He was completely useless because he was focused. And then his teammates just fell apart everywhere, then he couldn't control the game. So it is entirely the Nukeduck show, but I think the roster changes are really smart. And you say that players that are coming in, Advian and Macoon, are unknown, but these players have actually been top 10 of the ladder very frequently in the last 2 years, I think, even. I remember back in the day, Macoon was rank 1, and I got him to make a tier list for my website, which was really nice. I think this guy is extremely good.
How many years ago was this?
This was a year ago, 2 years ago. So why?
Oh, right. I thought you said, when you said like for your website, I think you meant like 10 years ago, something fucking
No.
Okay.
No. So this guy's extremely talented. Both of them are really fucking good individually, and I think it's a massive upgrade because now you have 2 talents that can actually become super good players, and you just have to foster them. I don't know if Excel's the perfect environment for that because, I mean, the team's kind of shit right now, but if they have good attitudes and can actually come in and do what they're supposed to do and learn in a good environment, I think they're going to shine.
What do you think, Rich?
Yeah, so XL is like a complicated situation. I would disclaimer, like I represent 3 players on this team, one of whom has just been benched. So just so people know, like I'm maybe, exerting a small amount of bias. I think overall, I think changing something was probably good based on what I know as well for environment. Leaving jungle aside for a moment, because I do represent Dan, who was just benched for Marcoon. I think in the support role, I think this was, in my opinion, this is like the bigger or the better, let's say, of the 2 changes, just looking at it from an outsider perspective. One, because I think Advian is a very skilled player based on opinions that I haven't seen like loads of material on him personally myself, but based just anecdotally on what players say about him, about how he lanes, about his awareness, about how his ability to team up with the jungler. It seems like he is a huge upgrade on Denick. And I think something that's been overlooked is, Patrick, again, disclaimer, another player I represent, I actually think he's been underperforming a lot, not just this split, but also last split. But I don't think it's a coincidence that he also had, in my opinion, the 10th best support in the league both times. I think
certainly one of the worst.
Yeah. I think Torin was a horrendous support player, and I think Denick had basically started out the season like doing his best to top that performance from Torin. Like, this guy just looks like absolute trash to me, which is a shame because I think in the past he was kind of unfairly treated, but versus how he was performing, when he was on Misfits and so on. So I like that move. I'm interested to see as well how Patrick is going to perform now, because ultimately Nukeduck's a great solid piece. He's almost always, like, he's had blips in his career, right? But usually sort of Nukeduck in a mediocre patch is still a very reliable player. He's just limited, right? But he's never going to int the game. At worst, he's going to sit under tower and clear waves and control his lane. It doesn't mean he's going to pop off, but, he's a decent player. So in my opinion, for XL to make playoffs, even if the team as a whole is more solid, Patrick needs to start popping off again. This guy needs to be the second carry on the team. Otherwise, I don't see them making playoffs still.
Yes. I agree with that with Patrick. Like, I actually thought when he came into LEC, he was a really good player. I thought he was an extreme talent, just like Upset is, right? And Reckless back in the day. But he never really showed anything. And this week especially, he played horrific, this week specifically. So I agree, he needs to play better. It can be a lot of things. It can be the factors with bad mood in the team. It can be so many things that make somebody play bad. So hopefully these changes will make him play better, because it's something that's necessary.
Yeah, I think the sad thing for me is that, like, this is also just like the XL story, because obviously a mad unlucky team that they always miss the fucking playoffs by like 1 game, some result happens. Even in terms of like zigging and zagging with the roster moves, like Patrick's best split in a few years was probably the summer split last year. Like, that was when even like my player friends would tell me, like, dude, I don't care where they are in the league. Like, he might be like the best indie carry. Like, he's fucking sick. But obviously now they get Nukeduck, who's actually good. Patrick hasn't been on the same level. So the problem that they have in the team, like you said, Wicked, is they had one player basically, and if he gets shut down, the game's fucking over. Also, the support thing, I definitely agree with that, Rich. Like, the saddest thing to me is this. Tora, who obviously was formerly known as Noskaren, right? Dude, he was so unfairly treated in like season 9, the season when he was with Splice. And partly because, this is how you know people don't watch the fucking leagues. It's just because he had like some hints at Worlds. He had some games that was shit. So people decided, oh, he's just trash. And then obviously he had that whole incident outside the game, which like soured people to him, and he had to change his name. But I noticed that storyline just stuck with him the whole time, dude. Like for the whole year after that, people were like, he's just trash. He's never been good. It's like, no. The problem is this, right? Is this one thing I hate in sports as well? It's when people are totally wrong, but they just wait so long. Eventually, what they're saying becomes right. They go, "See, I told you." It's like, no, dumb fuck, you were wrong in the past, and you are just now correct. Like, it's not the same opinion, is it? Like, yeah, he's bad now. This is years later, guys, and he's been through some pretty bad teams, so who the fuck knows where that guy's head is. And then the sad thing for me was the Denick move, because he did look like he had mad promise when he first came in LEC. But I have to say, I sort of see why Misfits gave up on him now, because you know everyone was so shocked by that. We're like, whoa, what are they doing? Like, Denick and Kobe, that would be the team. It's like, listen, they obviously saw something, didn't they? Because no one's been able to get that form out of this guy again. Like, he's never been the player he was when he first came in. So it's a bit sad, actually, because XL again, how did they end up like this every split? There's a team I really wonder at. I'd love to know the finances of all the teams, because I feel like this team can surely not have any fucking money. Look at the players they have to get me. They're always scraping the bottom of the barrel. What do you think on that, Rich? Obviously, you represent some of the players, but like, am I right on that one? They don't seem like a team. Like, put it this way, they're either making very weird moves or they just don't have the money to buy the big names.
So I think that, well, they don't have the money to buy the big names, right? That I can tell you for sure. Like, they're not paying anything like, or they're not making offers for anything like what the biggest teams are. There were certain situations where there was like a S tier echelon type player that would become available, and they would basically, you know, discuss it or you know, have internal conversations about whether or not actually this could be like a world changer for our org kind of thing. So that they were kind of in the conversation of like, it's kind of like with Cloud9 and Perks, although on a completely different scale, right? It's like, if a complete team culture changing player becomes available, they would be able to plug the finances in to make a play for that guy, right? But as a general way of how they operate, they're fairly fiscally sound as far as LEC teams go in general. They're not paying the lowest for sure. They're also not paying near the highest. And I think the main problem they ran into, to be honest, again, I think was support. I think that so far as I would be critical of like decision making or whatever, I don't think they ever made smart decisions about support. And this was something that I was talking about with Veteran the other day, which I think he made a really good point, which I completely agree with. There are so many fucking good supports in the ERLs. There are so many. Take a chance on one. Do some proper scouting. Have someone actually watch these guys play properly. Make your own minds. Don't come to me or Veteran or whoever else. You can ask their opinion, sure, but go and actually watch the games. I would say there's probably 5 supports who you could slot into LEC teams now, and they would be either as good or better than their counterparts. So to me, it's just I don't want to say this of XL necessarily because I don't know what the full process was, but I don't see how it ends up with Denick. It just seems like there are certain positions, it used to be top lane, now it's support, where people just get recycled over and over again perpetually when there's plenty of talent there. Don't just see EU as forever the sort of mid lane, the realm of the mid laners, right? Like, there's no logical reason why that would like always continue and why it could never be applicable to another area. I'm not saying that EU is flush with support talent like it usually is with mids. I'm just saying it's not as bad as it used to be. There are actually a lot of decent supports in the ERLs. Go find them, right? And, you know, a good example of this, I think, and people, including myself, again, I didn't have full context, so I would have personally, if I was Rogue, I would have thought sticking with Vander would have made sense at the time. But Trimby was a guy that, you know, was obviously in their academy team. He performed pretty decently at EU Masters, although he did have a couple of pretty terrible games as well. But obviously they saw enough in scrims, they saw enough in in-house, so they're like, we're going to give it a go. And you can kind of see in the other moves that they made, obviously like bringing a big name like Odawamne in and stuff like this, it wasn't like they were trying to min-max on salary or something. They legitimately thought this guy was better. And while Trimby had like loads of ups and downs last split, I would say, I think he looks really fucking good this split. So I think there's a lot of support talent in the ERLs. And yeah, I think XL's biggest problems have basically been bot lane. You have one of the best AD carry, if we're being generous and assuming, because from what I know, I think Patrick has big motivational issues. I actually expect this guy to fully come online again, this split. But you've eroded this guy's confidence and this guy's want to play the game by having two consecutive horrendous supports. So hopefully Advienne, who I believe is a much more talented guy, will sort of fix that. And if he does, I think they'll make playoffs. If Advienne and Patrick click, they'll make playoffs.
It's an interesting thing you've brought up with Patrick being extremely talented and actually maybe coming alive. One thing I want to say is Kris as well. When he came into this year, I was like, this guy is really good. I played against him solo queue. He was one of the best players in solo queue from all the pro teams at the time. And it just feels like when people joined XL, they just went downhill. Like, I don't know what's going on in the team atmosphere or something, but it feels like there's something very wrong with either shot calling or something must be lacking, right? So that's why I'm excited for this move, because I actually think talent-wise, Kris is really good. Advienne is amazing. Marcoon is top talent as well. Nukeduck is good and solid. And Patrick was really good too. So it's like every single player have what it takes. They just need to bring it together.
There's no shot calling on this team, though. That's the one thing I would say. There's no shot calling on this team. Like, Kris is a really good player. As Wicked said, like, so many players have given me similar anecdotes about like how much of a beast this guy is, like especially on, because he used to be regarded as like very small champion pool, only plays carries, and obviously he's going to kind of mechanically shine, especially in things like solo queue when he's allowed to just play these carries and roll stomp his lane or whatever. He's been playing, especially last split and now this split, like he has increased his champion pool significantly. I do think this guy's really good, but he's not much of a talker. He's a very quiet guy. He's a very reserved guy. He's not going to take the reins and shot call. Dan, for all the criticism that someone might want to levy at him, this guy was like Jankos in comms, or let's say.
I heard it was basically the reason they wanted him in the team. Yeah,
he's excellent, like communicator, regardless of what you might think of him as a jungler. Like very good communicator, and obviously he's gone now. I don't know enough about Marcoon to know about his shot calling ability or anything like that, so that's a question mark. I'm neither going to say it's positive or negative. And Patrick, he's not a shot caller. So if Advienne and Marcoon between them have some good shot calling abilities, that'd be great. Nukeduck, again, on stage tends to be relatively quiet, relatively concerned with his own lane. Again, that's not a bad thing, but you do need someone to take the reins and take control after you exit the laning phase in particular, right? So if Marcoon and Advienne have that between them, then great. But I don't know that to be true, right?
Yeah, same.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.